Welcome to the Solopreneur Academy Podcast. This is a podcast for entrepreneurs who want to make more impact and income in less time. I'm your host, Megan, and throughout each episode, you'll learn how to create the lifestyle and legacy you want as you grow. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Solopreneur Academy Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about what to do with negative feedback. This is actually going to be one podcast episode in a series of general coaching podcasts that I wanted to do for you while I am on my maternity leave, because I think a lot of times I do a lot of coaching behind the scenes with my clients, but I don't always give you the tools and the kind of scenarios that I've seen that can be really relevant for you all. And I want to give you some resources to help you and just stabilize over the summer so you can grow and scale. So within this episode, we're going to be talking all about negative feedback. And of course, if you want the negative feedback worksheet that goes along with this podcast episode, I'm including that in the show notes because I want you guys to have something to do whenever you get negative feedback. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about kind of even before the negative feedback begins, what to do. Then we're going to talk about how to process the emotions from the negative feedback that's coming. And then we're going to talk about what to do after you receive negative feedback. So first things first, a lot of times we catastrophize, aka look to the future, and we think that we're probably going to get more negative feedback than we actually physically do. So a lot of times I see people staying small and either not getting as big as they could or not even posting to start off with because they're really scared that somebody is going to judge and criticize them, which makes a lot of sense because the human brain has adapted from a community environment to now, instead of like a tribal hunt and gather kind of community, to now we are self-sufficient and safe. But if we think back to like how the human psyche evolved, is our human brains were designed to help us stay safe from emotional danger. Or from danger. It used to be that when we were in emotional danger, if we failed, if we got rejected, or if we were abandoned by the community, that was a physical survival threat. You would be cut off from resources and you physically could have died hundreds of years ago. However, we have evolved that we are not as reliant on our communities to be our source for food and shelter, but our brains still process rejection, abandonment, and failure with the same fear as a life-threatening physical danger. So it's just good to know that if you are listening to this podcast, you're most likely in a physically safe environment, but your brain might be processing emotional danger with the same validity as physical danger. For instance, a negative comment on a post might register with the same fear as like a tiger in the bushes. And you physically might feel like visceral physiological responses to something like a negative feedback post. And so what you want to do is you first and foremost want to recognize that you are safe. You are physically safe to experience negative feedback. Nothing's gone wrong. It's part of running a business. And you want to recognize that your brain is just trying to protect you. It's just trying to keep you safe. And it's just a little bit misguided in the ways to keep you safe. And it doesn't understand that you're not physically in danger. So what I like to do whenever I get negative feedback is I like to just remind myself, okay, it's safe. I'm physically safe to experience this negative feedback. Now, the interesting part about negative feedback is there have been two main times in my business that I have experienced negative feedback that you might be experiencing right now. For me, the two times that I've experienced negative feedback within my business were when I first started my business and when I've gotten bigger with my business and I've started running ads and things like that. Those are the two times that I have experienced negative feedback within my business. And that is something that I just want you guys to keep in mind. I think that when you start a business, most human beings are change resistant at best, right? People are not always loving changes. And when you decide to start a business, people are going to have a lot of opinions about what you should be doing with this business. A lot of those people are very, very kind and loving and have fantastic intentions. And a lot of those people who might be friends, family, acquaintances, work colleagues, most likely have never been a solopreneur or started a business in their life. So they have a lot of ideas that they are trying to help you with, but sometimes they might not be super helpful. So I just want you to know that that's at the beginning of my business. I experienced a lot of feedback about what I should be doing, what I shouldn't be doing, what I should be saying, how I should be saying things, what I should wear, just a whole bunch of things. And now I'm experiencing it again as my business has gotten bigger. And it's again safe to experience these things. But for me, when I first started my business, it was March. The pandemic had just hit. It was literally like March 20th. I was talking with my partner at the time, and they said that if I didn't, like, they didn't want me to be a stay-at-home parent. And so I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life if I wasn't going to be teaching. I actually never thought that I was going to run a coaching business at all. That was never on the cards. And as I was talking with my coach, who I'd been seeing for the past 2 years, she was like, "It seems like you really like this life coaching thing. Would you consider becoming a life coach yourself?" And the second that I even considered it, I was terrified. I was bullied pretty harshly as a kid. So for me, putting myself out there on social media, sharing about things that I actually cared about, things that I had been utilizing over the past 2 years as my coach, sharing things publicly. Oh my word, it freaked me out. I thought that I was going to start a business in March, and I didn't tell anybody about it until August. Let's just do the math there. March, April, May, June, July, August. 6 months of spinning and staying small because I was so scared about what other people would think. So if you're in that stage of your business, been there, done that. Literally, I'm now a business coach despite it. So you're in an okay place. If you haven't even started posting about your business, this is a problem that a lot of people experience. And within my business, I literally took those 6 months. And during the pandemic, I thought I was going to be a coach for kids. So I coached 6 of my students virtually and got them to grow through reading levels, started posting about it, and then actually brought in people that were my age. So I, and it was a way better fit. It was definitely a better situation. But for me, I just want to give that as context. Like, it's okay to feel scared to get negative feedback. And for me, during those 6 months of spin, instead of posting, what I wish I had done, and if you are in a situation where you haven't even posted yet for your business, I would just take a minute and do something that I like to call going to the worst case scenario. This is something that I do with my clients that I think would be really helpful for you. And whenever I'm kind of in this like analysis paralysis, stuck in not moving within my business, I like to go there. I like to go to the worst case scenario. And by going to the worst case scenario, a lot of times what I envision never ever happens, but it's good to have a backup plan and make sure that I'm okay on the other side of it. Because that's all your brain wants to see is it just wants to see, hey, I'm going to be all right on the other side of things. This is going to be helpful. So for you, if you're like, okay, worst case scenario, I'm going to have all these people say that what I'm saying is really dumb. They're not going to like it. And they're going to say that like, who am I to post about these kind of things if I'm just starting to understand this myself? And people might judge me and think that what I'm doing is absolutely insane. I like to go there and I like to say, okay, brain, there might be some people that feel like that. There might be some people who look at my business and absolutely don't understand it at all. Still to this day, there are so many people that are in my life, very close to me, that don't fully understand what I do. And that's okay. It's okay and it's safe to be misunderstood. But what I also like to do in that worst case scenario is I like to think about, okay, yes, there are going to be some people that misunderstand what I'm doing here within my business. However, there are also some awesome people out there that could probably benefit from this. And what I always like to do, for me, I have a very service-minded brain. So I like to go there and say, you know what? Yeah, this could be a really uncomfortable situation. There could be some people who disagree with it, but I'm willing to put myself out there for the one person that can use what I have gained from coaching. And I also, for me, I priced my services at the lowest price point I was actually able to. Like from my coaching certification in school, they said I couldn't do less than 100 a session. And I was like, all right, I'm doing 100 a session. And I did that for 2 years. No, no, I did that for a full year though. I kept it at 100 a session. I did 10 months of coaching and I did it for 400 a month, 4K total. And for me, that felt great to me because I was like, okay, I definitely feel like I can deliver at least more than 400 a month of value for this person. And then that really built up my confidence in order to be able to sell this, to feel like I was truly serving people. And again, if somebody didn't want to work with me, that was totally fine. I did not need them to work with me in order for them to feel safe. I just wanted to help people that were willing to pay and it would be a good fit for them. So what I did is I go to the worst case scenario and I'm like, okay, what's the worst case scenario? Some people are upset about it, but I would rather have some people that misunderstand me, that are not getting it, in order to help the people that need me. So that's what I like to do, is I like to go to the worst case scenario. It creates safety for me to experience negative feedback. It creates safety for me to move forward and get unstuck. And that's what I want you to do first, is I want you to be like, okay, what is the worst case scenario? Now, sometimes you're going to get experiences that are completely obscure, that have nothing to do with the worst case scenario you figured out. But at least that stops your brain from spinning. I have found that what makes my brain anxious and spin is either ruminating in the past, which I then make peace with, or catastrophizing about the future, which this worst case scenario strategy and tool can be really, really helpful. So that way you can do what I call closing the loops. If you've got open loops of worries, fears, and concerns, I found that I stay inactive and don't do anything because I'm so scared, versus when I go to that worst case scenario, the loop is closed. And if there's something else that's completely obscure later that comes and hits me like a brick, then I at least have a plan for how to deal with one scenario and I can get moving. And then when that scenario comes out, then I can always kind of switch it up and do different things instead. And I can trust myself to be solution oriented and actually come up with something to move me forward in those kind of situations too. So that for me is very, very helpful. Now, in that worst case scenario, when I started my business at the beginning of it, there were some negative feedback that I got from family, from friends, acquaintances, colleagues that I really wasn't expecting. And then there was also feedback that I'm now getting at this stage of my business that is not super positive always. And what you want to do is you want to be able to have like a protocol. So, like, again, this also helps me to close the anxiety loop about like, okay, what could happen? We've got a plan. So it's not a matter of if, it's when. Most of us in the course of our business are going to experience negative feedback, and that's okay. So I have a kind of like a three-step process that I do when I get the negative feedback. So first and foremost, I take a look at the negative feedback and I look at it from a circumstantial lens. So I say, okay, let me take this and pull out the pieces that are actually happening. So within my business, when I first started my business, there were people that had opinions about what I was posting. There were people that had opinions about how casual I was posting things. They said that I needed to be a little bit more formal. And now, actually, in this situation, I'll tell you what's going on with me and my business as it's gotten bigger, is as I've started to do ads, there is this actually just happened, which made me think of this podcast this week, was there was an account that actually found videos of me that I had sent in the past, reels that I posted, I think in 2023. And in the video, what I did is I explained what I teach my clients, which is to send personalized and customized messages to people that are like individualized to fit their needs and actually get to know people on a personal basis. So they found that video from 2023. And then they came and they also found that during my maternity leave, I have felt in the third trimester like my energy has been a little sparse. So within my energy, I haven't been able to send individualized messages like I would like to. And within that situation, I recorded a pre-recorded video from my VA that I had her send out to everybody to make sure that everyone knew to book a consultation before my launches close. So I said, and in the video, I said, hey, I'm in the third trimester. I would typically send a nice, lovely individual message to people, but right now I'm just going to have my VA send this out on my behalf. And I want doing this to let you know to book a consult before the launch closes. The other reason I did this was because not only from an energetic capacity was I struggling, but we found out that my email list was not going out to people. I was like, I don't know what's going on because there's no person out there. But my email list was not going out to people for who had a Google email, Yahoo, or Outlook email. So that has been super fun to go through and learn that my emails were what's called blacklisted. It's been a journey. We're figuring out over my maternity leave how to switch it up, make sure that my emails are not blacklisted anymore. But for like I think it's like 6,700 people. My emails were blacklisted from June of 2025 to May of 2026. 11 months. Super fun. We're living the dream. So for me, I was like, you know what? I don't even know if people are getting my emails to know that they can join before maternity leave. I just need to spam and send out all these people. So so somebody found that video of me from 2023, and then they got a pre-recorded the video for me saying, hey, I'm in my third trimester. I don't know if you're getting my emails, but book a consult if you want to join before my maternity leave. And they actually literally took my old video and then they put the screenshot of the video text from me, from my VA, but from me. And they were like, this person's a liar. This person is not honest, a scammer. And I was like, if anything, I was like, a spammer, I am. But like, scammer, I was like, I teach personalized GMs in my programs, but they were saying that I was scamming people. And so I, that is something that has happened recently. And so I like to get very clear. Oh, and they also have found me on every single platform. I'm talking TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I don't think they found me on LinkedIn yet, but like, and then the person's talking, they have like a fruit on their face. It's like a mango. And so it's like they're talking on behalf of the mango. And so it's actually pretty funny, honestly. But for me, I've actually gotten to a point where I'm like, this is just so interesting. Like, I actually don't feel a negative emotion towards it. It was just like, wow, what a time to be alive. So, first and foremost, I like to get clear on the circumstances. I'm like, one person with this scam account has found me on four different platforms and they have reposted a video from me from 2023 and a current DM. And so I take that and I just take that as a fact and I'm like, okay, this is the circumstance. This is what's going on right now within my business. And then what I do is I process the emotions. So at first, when I saw that, I was like, for me, I don't want people to misunderstand me. So I have this like, there was like a very like, visceral reaction for me where I was like, oh, I should explain myself. I should explain why this is the situation, what's going on here. And so I felt this need to explain myself. And what I had to do is before acting, I get clear on the circumstances and I process the emotion before taking action. Okay. So I would go through and be like, okay, we are processing the emotion. We are feeling misunderstood. And I want to be sad about that. Like, I don't want to be like the kind of person who is cold and callous and is like, doesn't care what people think about her. I still care about what people think about me. And so I just want to be like, man, this person is misunderstanding it entirely. And I do that before I act. This can be really helpful. I've gotten negative feedback from, well, and I'll talk about that in a second. But it's like I want to process that and I want to allow myself to feel sad. So I allow myself and I'll sit there and I'll notice like what sadness feels like in my body. These are like very coachy situations, but like this is literally what I'll do is I'll sit down and sometimes I even start a timer on my watch and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take 5 minutes and feel sad. And so I will literally sit there and I'll just like feel the sadness. I'll feel it in my body. I'll notice any thoughts that are coming up that if I'm like, what am I making it mean about me? It's like, well, I'm dishonest, I'm out of integrity. Like, and I'm like, okay, those are interesting thoughts. Okay. And I look at them without judging them. I'm like, yeah, I could see how I could feel out of integrity right now. Like, I don't want to be the kind of person that's sending spam DMs. That is not actually my intent. I do want to send personalized DMs. I can feel disappointed that I didn't have more time. I can feel frustrated about my energy levels at this stage of pregnancy. And I can allow myself to feel all those things without taking action. So I like to call it like stopping the model. There's this thing called the self-coaching model. That's what I got certified in by the life coach school where Christio used to run. I think that she might still run a certification. I don't think that she does anymore, but in essence, it breaks down the way that people interact with the world. And it says that there's a circumstance that creates a thought, which is a neurological pathway for you. It's one sentence that you say in your brain, which derives into a emotion, which is a hormone that's literally like happening and processing in your body. From that, everything that you do or do not do, you are trying to avoid or seek out actions that either create more good feelings or avoid bad feelings. And then that gives you results that you unintentionally create in your life. And then you can analyze that and move forward. So for me, it's become a very important piece. Again, obviously, I've been coaching myself since 2018, so 8 years now. Within that, I like to pause myself in the feeling and process it before I take action. So I say, okay, these are clearly limiting thoughts and feelings. Do I want to choose and believe that? Or do I want to choose something that's going to serve me more intentionally? So I like to pause myself there and I like to feel these things. And I'm like, you know what? I really do want to send personalized DMs. This is something that I do want to do moving forward. I plan on doing this during my maternity leave and getting really back into the swing of things. I also teach my clients in the mastermind even how to track conversations so you don't forget people during within my process within my program. And I haven't had a chance to like even write people down. It's been a little crazy over the past few months. So I want to go back in. I want to be very intentional about that. And I plan on doing that. So I can feel disappointed that I haven't been able to do that. But I also genuinely don't think I could have done anything differently. So I'm like, you know what? I can process this emotion feeling disappointed, feeling like, man, I wish that I had actually like sent this person an individualized message, maybe not respond to a person that says scammer account. Probably not my VA's best case of judgment, and that's okay. I can know that that was the best I could do with the information I had at the time, and I can forgive myself for the past. And also, the third thing, so you want to first, when you get negative feedback, categorize it circumstantially, make it neutral. Two, process the emotion and understand what thoughts and feelings you have without taking action, and then categorize it is step three for process what to do with negative feedback is then categorize and move forward. You've got to choose what to do with the situation in the moment. So let's say you are at the beginning of your business and you are getting a lot of feedback from friends and family that may or may not be useful. I am a people pleaser chronically. I definitely have that, like, when you think about the trauma responses, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which is like to people please. Because I was bullied in the past, always have a very strong fawn, people please trauma response where I just want to make everybody happy. So I would follow the directions of other people without actually deciding whether that was what I wanted to do for myself and within my business. So for me, when I categorized it, I was like, okay, is this a loving friend or family response that may or may not be useful? And then I would categorize it and do something with it. So for me, if I got negative feedback from friends and family, I would say, okay, this is a friend and family response, but they also are not paying me. So I'm noticing that I'm like, okay, this is not a person that's paying me. Would they ever pay to work with me? Probably not. Are they a business coach? Probably not. Do they have a business that is similar to my industry? Like I have had people in my life that have brick and mortar businesses, but it's very different than an online service-based business. So I'm like, it's kind of a different kind of business. So I can take that feedback with appreciation, and I don't need to do something about it unless I want to. For instance, I got feedback at the start of my business that said that I was too cavalier, that I was too casual. And so I really became super professional and almost robotic in the way that I was posting. And I went into a 7-month consult drop because of it. So I would be like, okay, that feedback, probs not necessary, didn't really help. So that's what I want to do is I want to say, like, I want to appreciate the love and concern and consideration from my community. And I also want to move forward with the things that I think are going to serve me best within my business. So that's what I would do for you is like further categorize. We can take and appreciate feedback from friends and fam, but you don't have to do something about it right away. And you can even, because one of the times, like I come from I know this is going to shock you guys listening to the podcast, but I'm a pretty stubborn person. And a lot of the people in my life are very stubborn, have lots of opinions about things. And so they might really feel a need to continuously give feedback if the feedback wasn't taken the first time. So, what you want to do is if you are in a situation like I was in, you can say, thank you. I appreciate you. But you might like, so first and foremost, what I would recommend is like take the loving friends and family feedback, take it and do what you will with it. Most likely, probably don't follow it. And then you might be good there, right? You might be good after you do the circumstances, you process the emotion, and then you categorize and decide what to do with it. You might be in a situation where you're like, yeah, no, we're good. No, no, no more need to have a conversation with them. However, you might be in a situation where somebody really, really, really wants to be seen, heard, and understood and might continue to give you the same feedback or different feedback over and over again until they are heard, right? So if you are in that situation that I was in for some of the beginning of my business, where I got feedback from people about the ways I should be saying things, what I should be doing, and all these things, and what I did in that situation is I said, okay, great. Thank you. And I actually would sometimes need to sit down and have a conversation with somebody and be like, hey, I really, really appreciate the way that you're giving me feedback on this situation. I understand that this is what your opinion is, and I hear you, and I love that opinion. I'm going to try and continue to do it this way. And if after a few months I'm not getting consults in, I will absolutely reconsider and try your suggestion out for sure. I just don't want to start there. And so sometimes people just need to be like, okay, like you see me, you hear me, I get it. And then they might back off. They also might not back off. And then, so if you're in a situation where you have either tried to just not take the feedback, they continue to offer feedback, and you have a conversation with them about it. What I would then do is put up a little bit of a boundary, and it, like, if they continue to have the conversation with you, then you just pivot the conversation to something else. And you could even like leave the room, do something else, but like that's the ways that, like, it's like you request, hey, I noticed that you wanted to give me this feedback. And this is how I felt. I do think this, I'm going to continue to go on this trajectory. Are you cool with that? Checking in with them. If not, then you might need to set a boundary. But that's okay. That's safe to do. When you get negative feedback, nothing's gone wrong. Everyone's going to have opinions about what you do. That's part of being a human being and having opinions. But I don't want you to think that like something's gone wrong. Sometimes people just need to, they might need to say it over and over again to feel seen, heard, and understood in their frame of reference, but you don't need to take it personally, okay? Nothing's gone wrong there. They're not trying to hurt you. They just might have a very strong opinion about what they want you to do and what they want you to say, and that's okay. We just want to make sure that you protect yourself energetically and set up a little boundary and just be like, yep, nope, this isn't what we're doing here. So that's what you want to do with loving feedback from family and friends. The second type of feedback that I would categorize, again, you take the circumstances, you process the emotion, then we categorize and take action. So the second type is feedback from people who are not paid people and things that may or may not be helpful. So in this situation, this is what I would categorize the spam account that like made videos about me. And there were multiple, by the way. There were like multiple videos. They were very offended by these like pre-recorded videos. I'm like, you know what? That's cool. No worries. But in this situation, I looked at their page and I was like, you know what? I don't think they're a service-based business that's trying to make money. I don't think if I like was able to like circumstantially look at it, and they just take down a lot of different accounts, and I'm like, that's cool. Whatever you want to do with your time and energy and talents is fine with me. I want to focus on people who want to serve people and people who want to help people. And I'm sure as I grow, there's going to be a lot more of that. People are going to have comments, I'm sure, about my body, about my, the way that I show up, just other things that I'm sure are going to happen within my business. So if I get negative feedback from somebody, I can take a minute and be like, okay, you know what? That honestly was a great learning experience. And be like, I'm going to clarify this for my clients. If they got any like copy and pasted messages from my VA, if they got this and they're seeing that I'm teaching something different, I'm going to go ahead and take a minute and clarify to make, especially as a business coach, I'm going to like clarify for them. But for this person in general, I was like, you know what? What do I want to do? This is a person who is most likely not a service-based business owner. I don't think they will ever pay me, nor do I think that we'll ever interact. Who knows? Maybe we might meet on the street someday and I'll be like, oh, you're the mango girl. Who's to say? But I think that, like, for me, I then want to take autonomy and I want to choose to do something that is going to serve me and my clients in the future. So I could for sure go ahead and like respawn back to this person, make some videos, clarify. And at first, I really wanted to. I want to be like, oh no, you just misunderstand. This is sad. Like, I didn't mean to like offend you. Again, in the video, I'm talking about like being at my third trimester of pregnancy. Definitely did not mean to like offend you with my copied and pasted message. Please let me know if there's something I can clarify here and we can move forward. But then I thought about it and I'm like, I don't think that this person actually wants to work with me. I don't think this is actually a valid for future client. And I can clarify things for my current clients and be like, hey, if you're thinking about sending a copy and paste message, maybe not. That's why I teach you guys how to send personal messages. If you want to do that, that's totally fine. But I think that people do have a pretty viscerally negative reaction to it. And I had my VA message like 400 people, and I don't think that any of them actually booked a call. So I'm like, it's like, not only do I think that I've seen it now get a negative reaction, but I also don't think it produced viable results. So I would not recommend you doing this. And I could be like, yeah, it's safe to test those things with my audience and test it and see and learn. Maybe my clients wanted to do the same, and I'll be like, I wouldn't recommend it. Now I've got a stance. But I think that for me, I was like, I could rectify the situation. I could message them, I could clarify. But I was like, you know what? I don't think that's a great use of my time, energy, and talents right now. This isn't actually something that I think is going to serve me or my people. I can record a podcast about it and help you if you do ever receive negative feedback. But for me, I was like, you know what? I don't think this is actually going to help us. And so what we've decided to do is just remove the comments on my posts and then just block the account. We're like, you know what? We're just going to block them, remove and block. Like, I personally feel like that's like a boundary for me. I was like, if somebody is just spewing negativity without actual feedback or wants to make other people better, that's just not the kind of person I want on my feed. And I'm choosing to block them. And that's cool for me. I remember my coach telling me about that. They were like, yeah, I just delete every piece of negative feedback that I get on my ads. I was like, great, cool. So for me, that just like feels better. I know people have other stances where they're like, keep them, like you can start a conversation. I'm not super confrontational. If you didn't get that about me, and the people pleasing, the fawn trauma response, bullied kid, don't want to confront people if I don't have to or if I don't want to. So for me, I was like, yep, this is just a no for me. So went and did that. Now, the last kind of feedback that you will categorize that can feel sad, I promise, is getting negative feedback from current clients or past clients. That sucks. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it from you. It's definitely going to happen when you're in your business. There are going to be times when you could have done something better too, which is even worse. Like there's sometimes when it's like just a genuine misunderstanding. There are other times when it's like, oh, I definitely screwed up here. Like this is definitely on me. And you're going to feel really sad about it. And what I like to do in those situations personally is I like to really seek to understand rather than be understood. So, like, for instance, when I first started my business, I was like, yeah, if you join my group, I'm going to give you feedback. And I said, the wording I used in my marketing was, I'm going to give you daily feedback in my portal. So that was literally like what I said is like, what I meant by that is that you can post anytime you want, like 2 a.m. on a Saturday, and you will get feedback. However, people felt like that wording, which I totally actually agree with, looking in hindsight, I was like, I totally see where they were coming from. They thought that they were going to get feedback every single day from me if they posted in the stream, and they were upset about the delayed turnaround. So I was like, you know what? That's on me. I'm going to own that. Like, I see how that language that could have been really misleading. And I know, like, intellectually, I'm sure that people were like, if this woman is coaching from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., how on earth could she get feedback to us that quickly? I know that intellectually, but my marketing was off. I think that I was in the wrong there. And I can totally be I'm going to be wrong about a million things within my business and life. I'm not too big to say, you know what? That was not right. I could have definitely done better with that. So for me, I own it. I find that it's best to own it as soon as possible and be like, you know what? I did screw up there. If I did actually screw up, if it was something that I did, and I'd be like, you know what? I understand fully where you were coming from. That was definitely not the wording I should have used, and I get it. So I'll tell my clients that. And like so I ask for feedback for my clients every single month. And then I also you can get feedback that's negative as well. Um, like just if they email in about things, they're like, I thought this would be like this. And it's like, yeah, no, I could see how you could think that. And I try and make changes as much as I can to prevent other misunderstandings or like full on incongruencies with the way that I'm marketing things and the way that it's showing up. But then I also try and rectify the situation and make it right. So I'll be like, hey, I realize that like I messed this up. let's do a one-on-one call and let's like talk about it. Like if I tell my clients that I give them monthly feedback, they fill out a form by the 5th and they get it by the 20th. And one, I think it was like in March, I don't even know what happened. I just like, it was like the 22nd of March, and I was like, I didn't give anybody their feedback. And it was like 2 days later after I tell them I'm going to give feedback. So I was like, everybody who submitted feedback, I think there were only 3 people, but I was like, you all get a one-on-one with me. My bad. Um, so I try and make it right in that way. The other thing, oh, I also communicate clearly any changes that I do that are misconceptions that I needed to clarify before. Then I go back and I get really clear about it. I talk about it on my live group calls, and then I also email out like an apology and announcement. And so the way that I was like, again, why we categorize it and then move forward is that I think about, okay, what can I do to like move forward from this situation? And so what I've done is like I'll be like, hey, I know that I said that you can get submit things daily, but I want to create a new norm, a new standard for my programs just to make sure that like we're all on the same page. And what I do is I was like, everyone, you can submit whenever you want, but you get feedback weekly. So now all of my marketing across any of my programs says you get weekly feedback in a discussion stream instead of you can post whenever you want, but you get feedback weekly, which I think helped to standardize things. It made people understand the turnaround time, and then we clarified expectations and moved forward. There were also situations like within negative feedback that I received at like the beginning of my business. I would have people, there was one person, so I used to do a money back guarantee for my general coaching too. I've since gotten rid of my money back guarantees because I think it creates an unhealthy amount of ownership for people who are within my programs. So what happened is in my contract, like contractually, it said that you need to attend 28 of 40 sessions, and you need to um like every week I would have my one-on-one clients. I did a whole podcast on delivery if you guys ever want it later. But every week I had a goal that my clients were working towards that I had on an implementation document. So I didn't even set these goals. This wasn't even something that I created. The client creates it. And then we check back in first thing on the following week and we say, hey, did you do the thing that you said you were going to do? If not, let's pivot. Let's come up with a new plan. So I said, like, you need to show up to 28 of 40 calls, and also because I think it was like around 75%. And then you also need to just do the things you said that you were going to do. So this person was like, they like on their sheet, I think we got to session 36 or 37. And I went through and they said, hey, I didn't get the result that I wanted. I want a full refund. And I was like, okay, should have clarified that sooner. But all the things, I didn't realize that that's the direction that this person was going with. And I went back into their form. And I think of the 36 sessions, they hadn't completed like 25 of the things that they said that they were going to do in between our sessions to get them the desired result. And in this situation, it was a career related result, talking about like a different location and a different job. And so like they hadn't posted their they didn't do an updated resume. They weren't applying to jobs. So for me, I kind of thought it was implied that like you didn't apply to any of the or you didn't apply to these jobs, so of course you didn't get the job, but that was what you had decided to do. So it was just kind of like a messy misconception, and they were very upset. They were like, you stole my money, you did this. And I had to take a minute again, circumstantially be like, these were the things that happened. I was very sad because the person did end up actually getting like a 10K pay raise anyways. Like they actually got a huge pay raise. The coaching itself was 4,000 and they got 10,000. So they'd already had like in my mind, I'm like, you've already made 600K more or 6K more So I felt sad and I was like, okay, what can I do to make this right? And I was like, I will absolutely finish out these sessions for you. I apologize that this wasn't contractually clear. And I, again, was like, I will absolutely finish out our 40 sessions for sure. We are going to get through this. And they chose not to. And I could feel sad about that and I could still move forward. I also, within like the people asking for refunds and things like that, there was a person that like again, from a people pleasing and phone response, like somebody back in 2020, I think it was 2023 or 2024, like years ago, at the very beginning of the year, they had a family crisis. And I was like, yes, I will give you a refund. It's totally fine. I was assuming that they would be asking for a refund kind of like sooner rather than later. And they actually asked for a refund like a year later. And I was like, okay, I actually don't even have these programs anymore. So we kind of tried to like make things like work. And then they like another year later asked for the full refund and stuff. So it was just kind of like a funky situation. And in that situation, I was like, you know what? We're going to choose to give them the refund of what we had 2 years ago, but we're just going to really clarify that like this is not the direction I want my business to go in. And we learned from it. And we were like, oh, we just don't want to offer refunds anymore. Just for me, I think that it puts the ownership on me versus the client to get the results. And that's why I don't do money back guarantees anymore. So that was something that I thought was really important. The next thing is if a client, so that would be a situation that you might be experiencing with current clients. And again, like what I do is I really try and say I understand where you're coming from and I try and rectify a situation and make it right as I can. There are still going to be people who are disappointed with me. I'm sure the person who I did career coaching with back in 2021 is still disappointed. And that does make me really, really sad about that situation. And at the same time, I attempted to make it right and move forward, but that's what you have to do. So again, you're going to get negative feedback within your business. It's a part of running a business. What I would recommend is going through that process, going through the worst case scenario. If you're scared of any negative feedback, it's okay. It's going to happen. There are going to be times when there's going to be a misunderstanding and they might be in the wrong, and there are going to be times when you might be in the wrong, and that's okay. It's safe to be wrong. It's safe to be misunderstood. It's safe to mess things up. You're learning as you grow and build your business, but I would much rather you learn and grow and help people versus trying to stay small and stay stuck just to avoid any negative feedback. So I hope that this three-step process about circumstantially figuring out what the actual facts of the situation are, processing the emotion through, and then categorizing and choosing how you want to move forward intentionally was really helpful for all of you. I hope that you get a kick out of like the situation I'm going through right now. And also like, I hope that you can relate to like some of the things that I experienced and shared. Oh, and just one other thing I want to clarify. If there is a situation where you are sharing about like either your clients or about that's one thing I didn't want to forget. If you're sharing about your clients and it was a not so anonymous client case study, or if you're sharing about a situation with family and friends that like is a personal situation that you did overshare, I would in those situations edit and delete posts or delete things completely just to make sure everyone feels comfortable. You know, for me, I'm like, I can make this more anonymous. I can delete it entirely. I usually will give people like that option, like because I've overshared before, and people were like, "That was me, wasn't it?" I'm like, "It was you. I'm so sorry." And so then I'll go back and edit it. But that can be something that you could have a misunderstanding about. You could overshare, you could undershare. It's a part of it. But I want to let you know that it's okay to be misunderstood. It's okay to get negative feedback. It's safe. And you can really move forward with it in some really, really positive ways. So I hope this episode was helpful for you. If you've received negative feedback, I'm sending you love. It's okay. Nothing's gone wrong. And what I want you to do is move forward in a positive way from it. Learn, grow. You're either learning or you're earning. That's kind of part of the game. But I hope that this episode was helpful for you. And if you want, go ahead and download in the show notes the worksheet to go along with this episode. And I hope it was really helpful for you as we move forward.
Did you know that 89% of people need to see a testimonial in order to buy? Get my free testimonial template using the link in the show notes, and you'll see exactly how I used testimonials to market my business as it grew to 120K in my first year full-time and multiple six figures every year after that. Thank you so much again for listening, and I can't wait to see you on the next episode of the Solopreneur Academy Podcast.